and welcome to Baby Lady Podcast. I'm Debbie Homer Davis and I run the largest independent nursery store in Kent. Over this time, I've been lucky enough to meet some amazing people, and some of them have agreed to join me on our podcast. We'll have managing directors, CEOs, as well as children's authors, car seat experts, and health professionals. All of these people have one thing in common. They're passionate about what they do, and they've agreed to share their knowledge and enthusiasm on our podcast. So welcome today to Peter, who works for AxKid. He's going to talk to us today about car seats and AxKid, the company. So Peter, you are well known within the industry as an expert on children's car seats. And I think if I'm right in saying, you're very passionate about car seat safety as well. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your journey to AxKid?
Yeah, certainly. I've been in the car seat industry now for 15 or 16 years as a retailer, and then as a sales rep for another brand of car seats, and joined AxKid 3 years ago, almost to the day, having left the car seat industry, but come back because it is a brilliant industry to be in, and very worthwhile too. And I would say you're right. I love it. I love the car seats and making sure that other people's children are safe.
And I think you are probably recognised as a bit of an expert now as well, which is always nice.
Well, hopefully.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about AxKid, the company, because AxKid is not perhaps one of the most well-known companies, particularly in the UK market. Obviously, it's quite interesting for our listeners to know a little bit more about the company and behind the company.
Yeah, sure. AxKid is coming up on 13 or 14 years old now. So we're actually a very, very young car seat company. When you compare to one or two other brands that have been around since the mid-60s. So, really not very long at all. It was started by a couple of guys who worked for other car seat manufacturers. One was a designer and one was an engineer in other things. And they thought and felt that they could make a better car seat than the manufacturers they were working for at the time. So they launched AxKid. And I believe they did it very, very successfully. And what they managed to do in the first 10 years of trading was to take around about 50% market share in Scandinavia, which is massive in a 10-year span. And they were focused very much on Scandinavia for those initial years. But then they started expanding into other countries around Europe. They launched AxKid UK 3 years ago, and we haven't looked back. It's doing really, really, really well. So maybe not as well known as one or two other brands, but certainly I think the most safety conscious of all the car seat brands. And that probably sounds really contrite, but because we all manufacturers care about safety and the best possible for their children. But I think AxKid goes slightly further than anybody else. All of their range is, where possible, plus tested, which makes them demonstrably safer seats than most on the market. So I believe we are the only car seat manufacturer to have the entire range plus tested, which is, really quite something. We're also the rear-facing car seat brand, and again, demonstrable by the plus tested car seats. And the fact that we only sell, with the exception of the high back booster range, rear-facing car seats, because it's just so much safer. So we really do push that boundary of rear-facing and how much safer it is.
So that leads me on to really my next question. I think it's very hard to get across to lots of people the difference between what is literally just approved as being past a standard and what is perhaps massively better. Can you talk to us about testing and approval? Because obviously everything that is sold on the UK market has to be tested to a certain level, but there is a very big differential. I think as a layperson, consumers can get very confused about that. And what should they be looking at? What would you advise customers if you don't know about car seats, if you are looking at this and you don't really, you know, obviously you and I, we pick these things apart and chat over them, but as an average parent to be, or a parent, what should they be looking for, and how can they be guided? Apart from coming to us, of course, and we will obviously sell them the safest appropriate car seats.
I mean, to be fair, that is probably the simplest and easiest piece of advice to give, is go to your nearest good quality independent retailer. The expertise within the nursery industry across the UK, and certainly with Baby Lady, is huge. And I think sometimes parents need to step back away from social media, and go back to their expert retailers to get the advice, because every child, every family, every car is slightly different, as you're well aware, and it means that the car seats don't fit every single situation, and the best way to get the advice is to go to the better retailers. In terms of what to look for in a car seat, rear facing is absolutely the safest way to go, to keep your child rear facing as long as physically possible. And there's car seats now that will allow you to do that to 6-7 years of age in both ISOFIX and belt fitted format. So that would be the first thing. You've already mentioned there is a big gulf between what is regulation tested and what is absolutely safe. So how can you tell the difference? Because for most people, as long as it passes regulation, it must be safe. Well, you would look at additional voluntary testing, I guess. One of those would be the ADAC scores and the results. Their crash testing is tough when it's independent. Most manufacturers do in-house testing with ADAC, of course. But when they do their independent testing twice a year, they buy the car seats from a shop and they go and test them to a higher standard. So you're looking for the specific scores that ADAC give, and obviously the lower the score, between 0 and the better the car seat, fundamentally. So they don't take into account necessarily the colour and the feel and that sort of thing, which really doesn't have a bearing on how safe a car seat is. So the ADAC scores are a good one to look at. And the other one that I've already mentioned is the plus test. The plus test is widely considered to be the toughest car seat crash test available in the world. It's purely voluntary, so no manufacturer has to do it. And the reason it's the toughest is because it's the fastest speed. It has the shortest braking distance, which means that the impact is much higher than some of the crash tests. But most importantly, of course, they test the pressure on the neck. And any car seat that essentially has a pressure on the child's neck above a certain line, it doesn't pass. It's as simple as that. There are very, very few car seats really worldwide. I think last count we're about 21 car seats worldwide that pass the plus test. That's not very many. Axkid are doing very, very well at the moment. We've got 6, so that's a really good indicator.
And going back to rear facing, extended rear facing, can you explain to the layperson, maybe people who are listening, why is it safer? Rather than just being told it's safer, why is it safer?
Very simply, every child from birth up to 15 months now has to rear face. So, and that is great because we all use infant carriers and things like that. And it's needed because the neck is so fragile and the spine. So by having a rear facing seat, the head, the neck, the spine are all fully supported in the car seat in an impact. So obviously frontal impacts are the largest volume of impacts in the UK. They're also the higher speeds and higher G forces. So you need to protect that head, neck and spine. And that's what rear facing really, really does. After 15 months, parents have the option of rear facing or forward facing, but the risks are no less once your child hits 15 months. So you want to keep them rear facing as much as possible and keep that head, neck and spine fully supported in an impact. And that's what we're trying to do.
It is very, very difficult to explain to people sometimes about safety. It's one of the reasons I was so thrilled to have you join us today, is because for us to explain to consumers when they can walk into a supermarket and see a car seat that might be 30, 40, 50 pounds, to understand why we are explaining to them that a good car seat is going to cost them a lot more money, because of the money and the development and the actual technology that goes into making these seats safer. So would you say, are car seats sold via the internet being used as safely as those sold through bricks and mortar shops? And have you got any evidence to support the case either way?
Ooh, that's a big question, Debbie. Yes, I don't have any evidence to support that one way or the other. The anecdotal data, and this is by a number of organizations who do test fitting, and you'll sometimes see them in car parks, offering to inspect and check car seats. But certainly the estimation is that 4 out of 5 child car seats are either fitted incorrectly or the child is fitted incorrectly into that car seat. And that's massive. That's unbelievably high. When you go to your retailer, you are far more likely to be shown how to fit the car seat, know that it actually fits your car properly. You're also more likely to be shown how to fit the child into the car seat, so you get better fitting, how to adjust the car seat. So many parents, I think, get that wrong. And that leads to 4 out of 5. And that's a very definite data stream from a number of sources in Ireland and the UK. And that's really, really high.
Terrifying, actually.
I would suggest that the internet purchases are probably more likely to be fitted incorrectly.
It is a challenge. So the last 12 months obviously have been very challenging for lots and lots of people. We would normally obviously have met up in various different locations where you showcase new products around the world, whether it be in Cologne or at Harrogate or at various other locations. But none of these have taken place. No party for us this year, sadly. Does that mean that AxeKid has stopped developing new products? Obviously, we've showcased the AxeKid 1 that's only recently been launched, which is a fantastic seat. So obviously, you have been doing development. But what's new and has it held up launch of new products? Is there anything exciting you can tell us about?
Well, yeah, certainly developments have been held up. The AxeKid 1 is probably the biggest case in point. It was supposed to be launched at the beginning of last year. It didn't get launched here in the UK until mid-September. So it was 8-9 months delayed, and that took a lot of the development time and energy to bring that to market. And that really is quite something as a car seat. As you say, it is really very, very good.
I loved it, actually. I absolutely loved it. When we did our launch of it, I think it is a fantastically clever, quite unique product. And if you are listening to this podcast, go and check out our YouTube channel where we have got a launch video which shows you how it works. It is a very, very clever seat. But in order to come up with something so innovative, there must be a huge amount that goes into that product development.
Yes, it is. So to bring a car seat like that to market, that took about 4.5 years of a lot of blood, sweat and tears, and a lot of investment, because the AxeKid 1 in particular has never been done before. It's never been achieved. ADAC, who were involved in the testing, and Tommy Pettersson, who's the chap who invented the Plus test. He worked at a Swedish test house called VTI. They continually said this car seat could not be done. It could not be made. Could not pass regulation. Could not pass the tests. But it does, and the reason it's so unique is because ISOFIX has this inherent physical barrier or limit inbuilt into it, in that they can't be more than 33 kilograms of weight of child and car seat. So as most ISOFIX car seats are somewhere between 14 to 15 kilos, that means you are naturally limited to a 18 kilogram child. What AxeKid have managed to do with the one is to develop a car seat that weighs less than 10 kilos. So we're knocking nearly a third of the car seat weight off, and allow us to put a 23 kilo child into the car seat, which is no mean feat on its own. But under regulation crash testing, they take an imaginary box that goes around the outside of the car seat, and then they push the whole lot down on the sledge of the testing facility. And when it crashes, no part of the child or the car seat are allowed outside of that box. And that's quite a tight box. The difficulty of putting a 23 or 25 kilo child into that seat, the seat is going to move a lot more in the crash test, and therefore more likely to push the child outside of the zone. But ActSkid 1 manages to overcome that challenge quite massively, which is great. So yes, it's genuinely innovative and new and groundbreaking, which is awesome. And it's leading on to new developments as well within the company for new car seats in the future.
Oh, that sounds really, really exciting. So is there anything, if you say it's leading on to new things, and I have to say the ActSkid, you know that I always say as it is, I will tell it as it is. I do think it is a massively exciting car seat. I think it's so clever and so innovative. And as you say, there isn't anything else like it. So what's in the pipeline? Can you tell us any secrets? What can we look forward to?
Unfortunately, I can't. And the reason I can't is because the Swedish design team keep things very close to their chests. They don't let us salespeople know about the stuff that's coming before they're ready to tell us. And that's so that we can't let slip to everybody else what's coming, because as a salesperson, we get very excited about new stuff, and we're desperate to tell people. And very often the designers are not ready for us to let it out the bag.
Yeah, we do get excited about newness. We do. And also, particularly when you're talking about child safety, if you know that there's something really, really exciting coming up that's going to make a massive difference, it's hard not to be excited and want to share that.
Very much so. I had to keep ActSkid 1 quiet for a long, long time, which which was very difficult, because actually I saw the one of the very early models crash tested 3 years ago. Just after I joined the company, I went to Sweden and saw the crash test. So, and I had to keep quiet from then right the way through till what was it, September 2019, wasn't it? I was allowed to start very quietly letting people know. I think it's probably about that time that I let you know, I think, if I remember rightly.
So do you have any amusing stories that you would like to share with us? You must have come across some amusing things in your time.
Oh gosh, amusing stories. No, I mean, not really. I mean, look after your car seat, inspect it regularly for wear and tear. We've found car seats where there have been mice squashed underneath the car seat fabric.
No.
So it's clearly been there a little while. So please do check your car seats just once in a while to make sure. That's always a good thing. If you're using underfloor storage boxes and you've got your support leg on top of them, and that's okay in some cars, not in others, don't put gas canisters in the footwell underneath the storage lid box. That was quite an exciting moment in my life when I realized and I removed the gas canister from the underfloor storage compartment, because of course that had the potential to be quite an explosive situation had they had an impact.
Oh my goodness, yes.
You come across all sorts of things.
Well, I haven't come across either of those, although I have come across a few things, but never these. But wow, gas canisters, gosh, that's got to be a first.
That was a first. Thankfully, I've only seen it once, but that's enough for me, quite honestly.
So what would you say is the best thing or experience that you have had involving car seats?
I think for me, the absolute best experience is talking to somebody who starts off with no idea about child car seats and walks away with a crash tested seat, or plus test approved seat. At the end of the day, yes, I work for ActSkid, but my purpose really is to make sure a child is as safe as I can get them, and the family can get them. That's it. So I will gladly sell another plus tested car seat. Or, I had an experience when I was in a retailer. A lady came in with an eBay purchased car seat that she hadn't got a clue how to fit. I had no choice but to try and help her fit that car seat, because if I hadn't, she'd have just done her own thing, which could have been disastrous. And I would prefer to try and get that fitted to the best of my ability rather than leave her to struggle and probably get it wrong. So yeah, that's kind of the best things, to hope that you're making some sort of impact and difference. So if they do have that impact or accident, and they do happen, increasing regularity, of course. Cars are getting faster, more of them on the roads, and I don't believe people are getting better at driving. So, between the three things, the car impacts and accidents are increasing.
Do you think there's a particular area of safety within the car seat market that has room for improvement? Like, obviously we are constantly, I've been involved in it even longer than you, and I've seen huge changes over the years, and I know that manufacturers like yourselves are going to massive lengths to try and make things, to push barriers, as you said with the Axe Kid. One, do things that people said were impossible to do. Do you think there's a particular area that still we could make a little bit safer?
Yes, there's always things that can be done. Better materials, better designs. I think the really hard thing, of course, is with better materials, better designs, better production, costs go up. So the downside is that with all these developments and improvements, costs go up, which makes it less achievable for more families to put their children in the better quality car seats. So I think that probably the big thing for the industry is to improve the baseline level of car seats, so that they're still affordable and achievable for families. This year has been very tough for so many families. That the second-hand market is booming on child car seats. So I think if the baseline level could be improved without adding too much cost to the production, and therefore keep it more achievable for more families, would be great. Because second-hand car seats can be a devastating prospect.
Gosh, yes, I know. I read a report where I can't remember. I don't know if it was Which or someone else bought 10 car seats from various different things, whether they were eBay, secondhand sellers, secondhand shops, and crash tested them. Only 9 passed. Only 9 passed the crash test, and one of them had been held together with blue tack, which is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And of course,
and that's absolutely right. If you don't know the history of a car seat, please don't use it. I know it can be tempting, and I know times can be hard, but there are finance options, there's layaway options with most retailers these days, and there's ways of achieving it if you trust the source. So one of your relatives, maybe a brother or sister, has had a car seat for 3 or 4 years, and you trust that they haven't dropped it, they haven't had an impact with it, then absolutely, by all means, go for it. But if you don't know the history, stay away.
And it's also important to get across to people. Obviously, if a car seat has been involved in an accident, it shouldn't be reused, because that doesn't do its job.
That's absolutely right. You must replace it, even if what you think is a small impact. The airbags haven't gone off. There was no damage to my car. It was a side swipe. It was this. It was that. There's all sorts of reasons we think of to keep using the car seats. But the bottom line is you can't guarantee that car seat will perform to its maximum abilities in another impact, and that's the risk element. You can't necessarily see stress fractures on the plastics or the metalwork. It doesn't have to have that nice big white crease line that you see in plastics to know that it's been stressed. You need to be confident that the structural integrity of the car seat has been maintained.
Yes.
And the only way to do that is to replace.
Sadly, that is It's very hard to explain that, but yeah, I completely agree with that. Well, it's been absolutely fantastic chatting to you today. I really do appreciate you joining us, and what a wealth of information you've been willing to share with us. I hope that those people who are listening have found it helpful. I know that whenever you and I chat, I always learn things from things you say. You are considered to be, I think you are one of my go-to people if I have a car seat question. If anybody's going to know the answer, you probably will.
Oh, you're very kind.
Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it.
That's an absolute pleasure, Debbie. Thank you very much for your time.
That's it for this week's episode. And on the next episode of Baby Lady Podcast, we get to talk to Michael Heffel. Michael Heffel is a bit of a hero of mine. He is a best-selling author. He's a speaker. He also runs a whole load of courses. He is a coach, does loads and loads and loads of things. And he created a pop-up group called How to Be Brilliant. And How to Be Brilliant has enabled me to learn all sorts of new things and take on new challenges. And in fact, without that pop-up group, I'm not sure that I would have had the confidence to start our podcast. So join us on the next episode, where you can find more about his Write That Book groups and all about the person behind the books. That's Michael Heffel on our next episode of Baby Lady Podcast.